U.S. President Donald Trump has arrived in Quebec City for the G7 summit. Earlier, the U.S. president said Russia should be readmitted into the G7. Russia was removed in 2014 over the annexation of Crimea. Trump also spoke out about trade, saying he'll sort out those issues at the meeting. The summit marks the first meeting between Trump and several allies who have been hit by new U.S. tariffs on steel and aluminium.
All of these countries have been taking advantage of the United States on trade. You saw where Canada charges our dairy farmers 270% tariffs. We don't charge them, or if we do, it's like a tiny percentage. So we have to straighten it out.
Well, joining me now is Tatiana Anderson, who's in Quebec City. Hi, Tatiana. So President Trump is just arriving in Quebec, but he's spent the last 2 days essentially disrupting the messaging of his G7 colleagues. What has been happening there?
Yeah, that's right, Aisha. He did just arrive. We just saw him get off of Air Force One. This is his first trip to Canada as the President of the United States. And you mentioned the whole idea of sort of divisiveness. And as he has been implementing some things that the group of 7 members think are pretty divisive, they have been trying to unify in the face of that. And we just heard Donald Tusk, who is the president of the European Union, say a short time ago that he's worried. And he said he's worried because rules are being challenged. And it's not by the usual suspects, but it's by sort of the group's main architect, the United States. Tusk also wrote an op-ed in the New York Times earlier this week where he said that this group is the de facto protection of the free world against those who disrespect shared values. He went on to say that's exactly why Russia was kicked out in the first place. And of course, we know President Donald Trump has made calls today to add Russia back to this group. For some more perspective on that, I want to bring in Tasnia Khan. She is with the G7 research group. She's also a security expert. And Tasnia, you know, the call of President Trump to add Russia back might be a distraction from what the topic du jour is, which of course is trade, but isn't it also sort of a security risk? I mean, some people say that Russia's main motivation is to sow discord. You can look at what's going on with the U.S. 2016 presidential race. From a security standpoint, how risky is it to call for that country to be added back?
Well, it's more than anything, it's disrespectful to the Group of 7. The Group of 7 is a place for democratic values and ideals to be upheld, and the reason that Russia was suspended in the first place was because they annexed Crimea, and, you know, that was completely going against the values of the G7. So bringing Russia back in isn't productive towards, you know, what they're trying to accomplish in this group.
And when it comes to what they're trying to accomplish, what would Russia's addition sort of disrupt?
The fact that the Group of 7 is a place where these states can freely talk about instigators like Russia and China having Russia come back in goes against that place. And more than that, it is the only multilateral organization where security issues can be discussed and also have valid actions be taken part with, mainly because the UNSC and NATO are places where these things can't happen because both Russia and China have veto power.
So it seems that the G7, if you look who are the member states, is a pretty liberal body. The U.S.,
yes.
UK, Japan, Germany, France, Canada, Italy. Has it been more effective without Russia?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And the thing is, Russia wasn't expelled. They were simply suspended. There's always a place for Russia to come back in. Trump isn't saying anything that's novel, but it's up to President Putin and the future of Russia to at least come to terms with the democratic ideals and come back in and maybe have a spot in the G7. But until then, there isn't a spot in the G7 for Russia.
So to that point, look into your crystal ball. Is there a way for Russia to get back in? I mean, what would they have to do? What would the member states have to see?
The bare bones of it is democratic practices and respecting territorial integrity, and on top of that also respecting human rights. And those are just the bare bones of it all. So until that happens, there's not a place for Russia in the G7. Under Putin's Russia, I don't see it happening. The future of Russia, maybe so.
Tasnia Khan, thank you very much for that. It's certainly an issue that is going to come up as leaders meet, and leaders actually have already been meeting on this Friday. Many bilateral meetings from Group of 7 members. Of course, Donald Trump just arriving here to Canada. He's missed a great portion of that. He will be here for less than 24 hours. In that space of time, he will have only 2 meetings with other nations, one of them France, one of them, of course, the host nation, Canada. He will depart early on Saturday ahead of some of the main discussions, including climate change, including gender equality, including future jobs around the world. That is because he is, of course, leaving here to make his most pressing meeting, perhaps in his mind, a meeting that could leave a legacy for his presidency, and that's his sit-down with Kim Jong-un happening in Singapore next week, Aisha.
Thank you very much for that, Tasnia Anderson.